Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live show of the Magpie Circle. The world is a brighter place this evening. Mark Stallard, delighted to have you joining us for your thoughts and views. Great to have you here. Great to see you've got the dartboard still out. Welcome for what promises to be an hour with smiles on people's faces, which has not always been the way, has it, in the last few weeks?
Absolutely not. I've took the pictures down of what I was throwing at it, by the way. So, yeah, there's nothing up there to show. But, yeah, the world does seem a better place, doesn't it, after last night? Much improved performance, really right where they should be at, right what you'd expect from this Notts team. It was a proper game. Credit to Sutton as well for playing their part there. They showed exactly why they've been up there all season. They were real tough cookies to crack, and it was a cracking game. It's just a shame there weren't fans in there, because if there were fans in there, it would have been an unbelievable atmosphere, let me tell you. So we know we're getting close to that. We certainly hope there's something riding on it. Is it the Weymouth game? Isn't it the last game, the last home game that fans will be allowed in at Meadow Lane? So hopefully they can carry on from last night.
Absolutely, Mark. So on the show tonight, we're all going to gaze into our crystal ball. We'll be studying Notts' final 6 games of the season, and we'll be asking you, and please send in your thoughts, permutations, computations, for how many points you think Notts are going to end up with between now and the end of the season, and is that going to be good enough to seal one of what is effectively 3 playoff berth spots up for grabs? And you never know, if we're being a bit greedy, the 5th place spot is still very much up for grabs. Notts mathematically, were we to win all 6, let's be positive, would absolutely finish in 5th spot. So we'll be dissecting the playoffs. We'll be talking about last night's performance, getting some inside expert analysis from you, Mark. I don't think too many of us saw that performance and victory. Great performance, great win, great for everybody. A bit of an update on Maurice Ross's latest situation and the fallout from that as well. And a pat on the back for the football club. Today's sale of tickets for the Weymouth game that you mentioned went on sale. Have to say, thought it was spot on. Didn't have any problems myself using the ticket portal for myself and my son. And I think it's spot on the way the club have done it in terms of giving the guaranteed period for season ticket holders only. They are the most important category for the club. And I think it's great that season ticket holders have an exclusive window to be able to get their ticket. So well done to the club on that one. Mark, 6 games to go. Now, for regular viewers and listeners of this show, I have been in a minority of about 2% saying that Notts can go on a run and we can make the playoffs. And I've been getting pelters. Richard Hawksworth, whatever, I am delusional and all the rest of it. The world's a brighter place. The key question is, it can't be a one-off last night, can it? How much has that performance and that result changed the dynamic of the rest of the season for Notts?
Well, I hope it's changed it, irreversibly. I'm like you. I've always felt that Notts would make the playoffs, despite what we sort of see them sometimes with their own eyes. But last night's performance, last night's result, just goes to show you that sometimes, especially lower down, when you go into, non-league as it is in the National League, logic and form and consistency are not always words that you associate with the football down there. Speaking on the radio last night, and we've just been saying about the chalk and cheese difference between Saturday's performance at Altrincham and last night's against Sutton. It was night and day difference. I said at times on Saturday, the pace of the game was like a testimonial affair. It looked leggy, lethargic, really slow. It wasn't a great game against a team that are struggling down the table. Come to last night, a team that's been flying all season. And when you see them come out the traps and you see how they play Sutton, you can understand why they've had success at this level. You know what they've got. They've got a strong core, they've got pace in wide areas, and they've got a real threat going forward. So to put on a performance that Notts did, to match them first and foremost, but, you know, then go and take the game with a man down, with everything that went in it, a last-minute penalty, you sort of couldn't script anything. And if you do want something to sort of upset the way things have been going, to pull the rug out from people's feet, you know, it looked like we were on a bit of a downward spiral that was not going to stop. Hopefully, last night was that full stop, was that moment to say to the players, that's what we've got to do in every game, irrespective of whether it's against a top of the table team who we know we've got to play well against so we don't get turned over. You've got to go and do that Saturday now at Barnet, team down the bottom, very similar to Altrincham, similar sort of scenario, nothing really to play for with no relegation, but they've had a new manager not too many games ago. They've had a bit of a resurgence after looking like they were on the holidays for a bit. But they've got to attack that game Saturday, just like they attacked last night's game. And if they do that, I see them getting all 3 points, no problem.
Okay, we'll drill down into these final 6 games in a minute. Some early thoughts and observations. Dean Gollin, I reckon we'll need at least 10 points to get 7th place. To get 5th place, we will need 13 points. Paul Hawksworth, oh my goodness, Stell, where did that effort, desire and motivation come from? The first game I've enjoyed this year, absolutely brilliant. Chris Jordan, I reckon, will be 6th. Folks, good evening all. Nice feeling to be with you. Richard Hawksworth, thanks, Paul, for the mention. Yeah, he's getting his excuses in now. Think my brother was more negative than me. Righto. I thought it was Richard Hawksworth that said I was a loony. Anyway, K9 Muirs, so pleased for Ruben. We'll come on to your thoughts on Ruben in a moment. Melk Vos, with 3 points and a match ticket for 22nd. I don't quite get that. And a match ticket for the 22nd. Not that we will finish 22nd. I was getting a bit confused there. Apologies, Chris B. As we seem to put in better performances against the bigger teams, the issue for me is the players' mentality to those lesser games. Yeah, good point. Jacob Daniel, not sure we can really say we couldn't see it coming. Really? You weren't exactly optimistic, Jacob, for what I could see. Barely more than a week ago, we were better than last night away at the only team above Sutton. Respective injury times were the difference. Yeah, well, you know what I think about XG factors, Stell. Results. Nothing else matters. That's why we're all happy today, I would venture to suggest. Ruben Rodrigues. So he's gone from being a data ball misfit to being a late candidate for the Euros with Portugal on the basis of that last 90 minutes. Come on, you're the pro. The rest of us are all amateurs. Give me your take on Ruben.
I don't think he'll make the Euros, I'll be honest. He left it a bit late. He's undoubtedly got ability. It's very difficult when you talk about a player like Ruben, because we spoke about a little bit on the radio last night. You're talking about a player who has the ability to do things that a lot of other players can't. He can see a pass. He's got good feet. You know, he's got all the attributes that you'd like to see in that. What you would talk about a number 10 nowadays, don't you? But anybody who plays in them sort of between the lines, between the centre forwards, he's not an out-and-out centre forward, and he's not really going to fit into a 4-man midfield player. He's going to play in them holes, either the withdraw or the inverted wingers, as they like to call them, you know, in the sort of wide positions supporting the strikers, or as a number 10, straight in behind 1 or 2 centre forwards. And he can pick up them pockets of space. The one issue you would have with Ruben, like you would have with almost any player at these sort of levels of that sort of ilk, is consistency. It's the one word that you know everyone's striving for at this level. It's the one reason I would say Sutton have been impressive this season, because they've been consistent throughout. Other teams have had, you know, ups and downs along the way. They seem to be consistent. But in terms of Ruben Rodrigues, I think there's a real player in there. He's one of them that he might just need a little bit of coaxing out of it. We know Neil Ardley didn't play him regularly. We saw flashes. Neil Ardley didn't play him regularly. We've had a new manager in Burchnall's come in, and he's not played him. And he's, like I say, these managers see them Monday to Friday, not just what we see in the games. And you might see, I try and stay away from, I'm not drawn in, I'm too old for this Instagram crowd, but if somebody puts a highlight reel together of, look at him, he's done something great for 20 seconds. And I go, yeah, but what's he done for the rest of the game? And that's not just Ruben, that's everybody, that's every player. What have you done for 90 minutes of a game? Not just you can turn up for 90 seconds and have the rest of the game off. So that's what always gets labelled. I would say Enzio is a similar. We've had the same sort of conversations about Enzio previously, about creative players. How often do they affect a game? Last night, Ruben Rodrigues was as close to unplayable in this division, as you're going to see from a Notts player this season. We've been sadly lacking in creativity, in vision, in what I call it a clever player who can see what's going on in a football match, whether it's hurly-burly, whether it's passing the ball or whatever, and can find time and space and produce a little bit of magic, see things that other players don't see and execute them as well. It's all right seeing it, you've got to execute it. And last night I thought he was superb, as were the whole team, as were the whole team in general. So it could well be a case of, for him to play well, he needs help from the team, as we all do. It's a team game for a reason. You need some people to do the donkey work. Some people are artists and they can see things that others can't. So there's a real player. He's an enigma, I'll be honest, because for large parts of the season, he's shown flashes. And I've described it about a lot of the new players, or the players that have come this season, is they've all seemed to make impact off the subs bench. And then they get selected for a start, and then they don't do enough. And they don't do enough to maintain that starting berth. So again, it's that consistency word. But for a manager, whoever that manager is, whether it's Ian Burchnall, whether it's Neil Ardley before him, it's a real head scratcher as to how you get the best out of them and how you get the consistency. It's a difficult one, but he played superb last night. If you can build on that, then we've got a heck of a player at this level.
I've got to say, fair play to him. Penalty, 95th, 96th minute. There are a lot more experienced players out there on the pitch than him for that penalty. And nerves of steel. Fair play to him for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd look at it and go, well, it's a chance to score a goal. I mean, they don't get one off you if you miss it, so you may as well put yourself forward. But I know not everybody's got that mentality. But yeah, last minute, it's, like I say, and this brings in, you can go into the conversation about pressure. What is pressure? Well, it's that fear of failure, isn't it? It's the fear of the consequences of failure. So, like I say, you can look at a glass half full, glass half empty. It's which way you are. But I always saw a penalty as a chance to add to your tally. And I'd like to think Ruben, what is he, 24, Ruben, I think, 24, 25. He's right at coming into the peak years for a player at that sort of position, of that sort of ilk. He's coming into the peak years, and why not go and get goals? Because you add goals to your tally, then all of a sudden people might make a note of you, might make a note of your name. Because if they see you on the telly last night having a good game, and you score goals, and they look up his stats, as we know, data ball, money ball, and all that sort of thing comes into the game, and they say, oh, he's got into double figures. If he can get into double figures for the season, people go, I tell you what, I'll take a chance on him, or I like him, or he's a threat, whatever. If you don't get there, or so why not take the penalty? What is there to lose? But you're right, it does take some confidence, and it does take, nerve, if you like, to step up and do it. But credit to him, he kept his nerve, put it away. We got the 3 points, and that's all that matters. I'm with you. That is the only stat that matters.
There's been quite a bit of debate on social media today, and a lot of supporters saying that Ruben played in a kind of a slightly different slot, slightly different position. Did you see it that way, or was it fundamentally Ruben putting a proper shift in?
I think it was Ruben putting a proper shift in. Yeah, again, contrast Saturday, where he scored a wonderful free kick, by the way, and probably produced Nott's best pass of the game in the second half for the only real clear-cut chance we created for Enzio, a little ball inside in between the left-hand centre half and the left back for him to run onto. But Charlie was saying about, he'd maybe give him the hook. We were talking 2 or 3 minutes before he scored the free kick. Charlie was saying, I'd possibly hook Ruben. He's done nothing, and he hadn't. In fact, he'd given the ball away when Notts had possession that led to their goal. So again, it's a frustration. It's an annoyance. The fact that they go and score after he's given the ball away or lost the ball, that could happen any time any player gives the ball away. So that's I'm not castigating him for that. But Saturday's game as a whole, Notts did not have anything like the energy levels, the desire, the drive, the tempo, whatever word you want to use about it. On Saturday, there was none of that. And Ruben himself looked, a little bit jaded, didn't affect the game, but he scored his wonderful free kick. So again, with the position Notts are in and the form that Notts are in, you look at Ruben after last night and you would go, well, he's got to start. He's got to start because he can do something other players can't. But you then go back to other games this season where he has started and largely hasn't done anything. Again, by the very nature of it, a frustration for manager. And I think Ian Burchnall said himself, didn't he? He gave him a bit of, talk about carrot and stick, gave him a bit of stick when he sort of came in, saw how he trained, perhaps saw how he was about the place, didn't like it, and said to him, you've got to show me more, you've got to give me more. Now, if Ruben's knuckled down, got his head down, took that on board, we had, was it Casper Sloth pre-season who didn't like that attitude, and I'm a big I want to come here and play and I don't want to have to work hard and roll my sleeves up, I just want to play and that's it. And when he didn't get that, he did one. So credit again to Ruben if he's took that on board, a manager telling you that and going, right, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to show you. And because of that, you've then got to give Ian Burchnall a bit of credit for maybe realising that's how he needs treating.
I think we need to give Ian a lot of credit too for when we went down to 10 men, he kept 2 strikers up front so that we don't necessarily retreat. I think it's what Neil did against Dagenham as well, if I remember right. And I thought, but certainly given the challenges that Ian has faced in his short tenure at the club, that's a brave decision. And it was ultimately, I think, and you will be able to tell me better, it was kind of a key formation setting out that enabled Notts to compete as successfully with 10 men against Sutton and create chances to win the game aside from the penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, credit to him. You're right, Neil Ardley did exactly the same at Dagenham and Redbridge, kept 2 up. And, maybe nowadays with the fitness levels players have got, I talk about these flexible rotational systems where you set up as a, whatever it might be, 3-4-1-2, 4-4-2, whatever it is. But, even if you're 4-4-2 like Sutton were last night, you don't leave 2 strikers just stood on the halfway line like it used to be sometimes back in my day. When you're out of possession, one of them strikers is expected to sit deep and make a 5th man in midfield effectively. So you're 4-4-2 in possession, you're 4-5-1 out of possession. It's sort of the way football has gone, and the improved fitness levels, can enable that. But you've got to say, it's a brave decision when you're 2-2, given what's happened since Ian Burchnall started, given the previous 48 hours as well on top of that, which we may well come on to. But just from a football and results perspective, it would have been very easy for him at 2-2, going down to 10 men, to think, oh God, let's try and hold on for 20 minutes here. I can't afford to lose another game because, there'll be a landslide of criticism and I'll be blamed for everything, from here to next week. So it was a brave decision. It ultimately proved the right decision. But if Sutton go and score 3, then it proves the wrong decision. But this is what I talk about. Football is, and I agree with you, Paul, completely. The only stat that matters is the result, is the score line. The rest of it is all fluff. It's all dressing, and we can make it all say what we really want to fit our argument, to see whichever side of the fence we sit. But the results are ultimately what a manager lives and dies by. And last night he got a result, and hopefully that makes him feel a little bit better. That makes the players feel better, and it reassures fans a little bit as well. Because obviously there was negativity. Of course, there was negativity because the results. And let's not face it. This is not. We've not cracked it now. We've had one really good performance with a good result on it. But that's it. If they now don't take that on for the remaining 6 games, what's it all for? It was all for now. It's a flash in the pan. It's that inconsistency that I'm talking about, whether you apply that to individual players or a team collective. They've now got to take that on. Hopefully that gives them some confidence. Belief, I think, is one thing that was missing and I think the double whammy last night was obviously Kyle Wootton getting a goal, getting off, his barren run, getting out of his barren run. He'll believe he can score again. The rest of the players will believe we've got goals in the team again. They'll see that performance, and hopefully they should take confidence from it and believe now that, well, there's no obstacle too high between now and the end of the season.
Brilliantly put there, Stal. Absolutely agree with every single word you said there. Some thoughts and observations. Conor McManus, didn't we say that the Dagenham and Redbridge game would be the catalyst when we won with 10 men last time? Hopefully we don't turn burnout after one good performance again. Ian Baggott, has Doyle helped galvanise the squad? We'll develop that point in a moment. Kyle Sadler, let's hope yesterday provides a boost we and the team need to carry us into the playoffs. Gary Smithhurst, one swallow doesn't make a summer. Need to follow it up with a performance at Barnet. Derek Flowers, is it a coincidence after the game after Mo Ross leaves, we turn in a brilliant performance? Conor McManus, Ruben had one of the best individual performances of our season. If we keep him at this position we had last night, he could be a proper player for this club. Andy Newham, we seem to play a lot better in front of the BT Sport cameras. Is that because almost by definition the opposition is better, or are the players lifting their game for the TV? Dale Pikett mentions Adam Chickson, looks like a man on a mission since he's come out from the cold. MH, what a performance last night. Feel sorry for Ian Burchnall as we've played equally as well in other games, just results haven't gone our way. Keep the faith, exciting times ahead. Gary Smithhurst, Slocum's save, from the downward header was a pivotal moment too. Was good to see him back. Ian Burchnall, not the Ian Burchnall style. We have an Ian Burchnall that spells his name slightly differently, and who has been consistently abused on social media like never before for the past 5 weeks.
He'll be pleased.
I think it's him. Ian says, I can't believe how excited I feel having booked my ticket for the Weymouth game. AD Clark, fantastic result. Most didn't expect it. Does seem that the players perform better against the top teams when there is less pressure on them. Big game Saturday, need to follow up with a win. Lee Brearley, great that we raised our game against Sutton, but it's one game. We haven't done it for a large majority of the season. That's my worry. I hope this breeds confidence for the team. I want to get the whole Maurice Ross debate out of the window in the next 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll then focus on Barnet, the game itself, and you and I and others going through these 6 games and working out where we think we're going to finish for the second half of the programme. So quite literally, Maurice Ross parted company with the club literally about an hour before we were due to go on air on our Monday night show, and I think it came as a huge bolt from the blue. The subsequent fallout appears that there is some debate about what was said, what wasn't said, and was he sacked or did he resign? We will have seen the comments attributed to that were alleged to have been made by Maurice Ross, which appeared in the Daily Mirror this morning, which were allegedly of a racist nature. Maurice has spoken with a couple of journalists. It is his position that he resigned and that he was not sacked. He has denied making the exact comment that was attributed in the Daily Mirror, but has declined to say what comment he did make. He did admit in his statement that was issued on Monday night that it was inappropriate. My understanding is that the sequence of events was that the comment was made in the dugout on Saturday. Players were very upset and concerned by that when Enzio was made aware of it. The players, when they came in for training on Monday, were very concerned and made an immediate formal complaint to the club's chief executive, Jason Turner. Maurice Ross was advised not to come into training, and the club then took the appropriate steps. Maurice will say he resigned. The club have said it's by mutual consent. Others have said he was sacked. In his interview in Burchnall yesterday evening, he spoke that the club had acted. He couldn't make any further comment, but he used the phrase zero tolerance by the club. What do you make of it all, Mark?
Well, it's an unfortunate incident. It's a terrible incident that's led to somebody leaving a club. What I say with football, the club have obviously looked into it. You know, they've had a discussion. They've sat around the table. I don't care whether he was sacked, whether he resigned. It was looked into. It was dealt with. I think we talked previously about the National League in relevance to that. I like strong leadership. I like that. I think it defines the way for people. And you know what? You might disagree with it sometimes, but people can hang on the coattails of strong leadership. And the club showed that. They did whatever they needed to do, spoke to whoever they needed to speak to. It came out, like I said, I'm not privy to what was said, and there are probably only one or two people who know exactly what was said and what happened. But they did their investigation in-house. They dealt with it. Maurice Ross leaves the club. Michael Doyle is now assistant manager or assistant head coach, whatever he is. We move on. That's beginning and end of it. Just like we have to move on when Neil Ardley was sacked, you move on. Football is a very cutthroat business. I'm delighted that the club have took a firm stance, you know, and they've been straight in their no tolerance, zero tolerance. We live in a zero tolerance world now, and it's you know, that's how it's going to be. That is how it should be. There should be no discrimination. Unfortunately, you know, it might be many years, many generations until we can actually, or other generations will live in a world like that. But from a Notts County perspective, from this incident perspective, it happened. Whatever happened, you know, with the individuals concerned, it was dealt with quickly, you know, let's say strongly, and we move on.
Well said. We move on with Michael Doyle fulfilling a coaching role as well as a playing role. What do we think of that?
I think he's the obvious choice, given the circumstances, given the nature and the timing of where we are in the season. I think he's the obvious choice. The alternative would be Ian Burchnall having to sort of look in his black book of contacts, wouldn't he, see who he wanted, were they available, could he get them in? Michael Doyle's in the building. We know he wants to make that transition into coaching. We know what a valuable asset he is to the club, not just in a playing perspective, but how well thought of he is, well regarded he is, and I think all the players. And that's the one thing, you can't say anything good comes out of any sort of discriminatory incident. But if all the players stuck together, then I like that. I like that as well. That there was an incident with one player or involving one player where one player was the subject, but the players stuck together as a collective. Now that I do like, and I think if he's the leader of that dressing room, which, you know, whether he wants to be or not, I think he sort of is seen that way, then no better person to be the assistant, I keep wanting to say manager, but head coach.
Gary Smithhurst, the club acted swiftly and appropriately and should be applauded. Zero tolerance on this is exactly the right approach. MH, it was interesting that Ruben in post-match credited his performance to the help and advice Doyle was giving him on the pitch. Mark Reap, it sounds to me like Mo leaving was unavoidable after whatever he said. Okay, I think that's put that one to bed. We're halfway through the show. Let's now all play the little games that we like to play. I think you've been jotting a few notes out as well.
I have, yeah. The dog's just come in as well to join me. I think he probably got a better idea than me what's going to happen.
Right, and so please, everyone on the chat section, send in, you know, your points totals, how you think we're going to get on in these next 6 games. So here's kind of where we are and where the opposition is. So Halifax in 5th on 62 points. They can get a maximum of 74. Wrexham, currently on 58, can get a maximum of 73, exactly the same as Bromley. Notts are on 57, so we're a point behind Wrexham and Bromley. But with an extra game, we can get 75 points. And because we've got 2 in hand on Halifax, our points total, a maximum possible total of 75, is higher than Halifax's, who are currently in 5th. They can only get 74. A point behind us. And it's funny, we often talk about momentum, don't we, Mark? You know, Chesterfield, from being the form team for weeks on end, I think they're down to 1 win in 5. They're on 56 points and can only get 71. Eastleigh in a similar position on 56 and can get 71. Okay, so the top line of all of this, he says optimistically, is if we win every game, we will have a home playoff. Easily done, Amar. That's dead simple.
Well, I calculate if we win the next 9 games consecutively, we'll be in League 2 next year. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks and good night.
That is taking optimism to a new level. You'll get pelters now. I normally do.
But let's have a look on the basis that maybe doesn't happen. Let's throw in some other scenarios, shall we?
Okay. So we've got 6 games. I'll read the 6 out, and then let's go through them of what we think we're going to get. So we've got Barnet away, Maidenhead away in midweek, Bromley at home on the Saturday at Meadow Lane, Wrexham away midweek, Weymouth at home on a Saturday when the fans are back in, and Bromley away. So there are 6 games, 2 at home, 4 away. Let's start with the first one, Barnet. We've got to be careful, haven't we?
Of course,
we only need to turn up.
Of course, we've got to be careful. It's after the Lord Mayor's show and all that sort of thing, isn't it? Whoever that was, I forget the name. He said wrote in about the Dagenham and Redbridge. We've been here before. He's right. We have, and it never turned into a catalyst for anything. So you know, we've got to guard against that. The players, more importantly, have got to guard against it. They're the only ones that can affect the game. We can't. But they've got to be going down there full of confidence after you know, last night, last evening, whatever we call a 5 o'clock kickoff. But yeah, you've got to fancy us to win the game Saturday. I mean, anything less than that would be a disappointment after the performance they put in last night.
Okay, so I'm writing this down as we go along.
Right, go on. Yeah, go on.
So Barnet, you've gone for a win.
I've got a win at Barnet. Yeah. Well, I've got to win the next 9 games, but I'll play devil's advocate and throw some other groups in. Yeah.
Right, I've gone for a win at Barnet as well. Maidenhead away Tuesday. Next week.
Yeah.
What do we think about that one?
Tricky, obviously, as they all are. You know, Maidenhead mid-table, they're ups and downs. They've drawn the last couple of games. But again, and I'm a terrible bore, but I keep repeating myself. You show me a run of games that Notts shouldn't go and win, and you know I'll be amazed. You'll be looking at different divisions. So I fancy us to go and win, but knowing that back-to-back away wins are tough. Let's play devil's advocate and say we get a point at Maidenhead. How about that?
We've not talked about this beforehand, but I've gone for a draw as well. So we've got a win at Barnet, a draw at Maidenhead. We then get, and this clearly is a big one, or one of 2 against one of the main rivals, Bromley. Changed their manager, bit of a character, Andy Woodman.
Yeah.
But we are at home.
And I think that's what we'll tell, being at home. So they're on a right roll since Andy Woodman's took over. I think they've won 4 out of the last 5. Like I said, I'm looking at my bits here. I fancy us to win. I mean, they score goals. They've got Michael Cheek in there, the leading scorer in the division. They score goals, but they concede plenty too. And I think at our place, I would fancy us strongly. Bearing in mind, Bromley's running includes Torquay away. I think that's their next game. But all the teams' runnings written down here, and I've been scribbling them out for the last few games, so I know where we are on the radio. But yeah, they've got Torquay away. So the table might change after the weekend. So 3 of their 5 games are Torquay away and then us home and away. So they're massive games, but I fancy us at home. Okay, so you're going for what? A win? I'm going for a win. 7 points out of the next 9.
You won't believe it. And it is here. I've gone down here. Right? I've gone for that as well. So we are currently 7 out of 9 with identical next set of results. So then, Wrexham away.
I think that and the Bromley away game, the last game, could, because obviously Watts might be riding on it. I think the Wrexham away could be the toughest game we have. So on that basis, let's be real, David. Saying they've got the 7 out of 9, I'm saying they're going to go there with confidence and they're going to get a point there. But that is the one I would look at and go, if we're going to lose one, that would be the one that I would be worried about. Because I think Wrexham, they've got a decent run in looking at their games. Yeovil at home, Boreham away, us at home, Kings Lynn at home, and Dagenham away. But Dagenham are the form team in the table at the minute. So, look, there's no chance this ever being right, because I'm going to have to put a pound on this at some bookies somewhere on it, just in case it turns out to be right. But I would say a point away at Wrexham.
Right, well, 4 out of 4, we are identical, right? 4 out of 4. I was going to say I'll go first on the next one, but as it's Weymouth at home, I can't honestly believe we're going to be differing too much with 5,000 fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I mean that'd be. I mean, do you know? I must admit, Paul, I don't know how many fans are allowed in. How many tickets are there for the Weymouth game?
The number I have seen is 4,400. Right,
and assuming things don't go sour between now and then, well, they won't do. We've just got 8 points out of the next 4 games. We've just said, you know, that 4,400 will be making the noise of probably about 15,000 at Meadow Lane, having not seen any football and for so long. So, I mean, there's no other result there, is there? That's 5-0 all day long.
Right. So, well, unbelievably, we've gone beat Barnet, draw with Maidenhead, beat Bromley, draw with Wrexham, beat Weymouth. And we've all gone identical so far.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I have horrible feeling we're going to say the same for the last one, which would be, well, we haven't rehearsed this. This is genuinely the case. Yeah. Right. So Bromley away last game. The way we've got it worked out, we're already in 5th by this point. we can get automatic rest everyone.
We've played our joker on Weymouth as well. So yeah, no, last game will be tough. Obviously, Bromley away. You know, they score a lot of goals and at home as well. Last game of the season, there could be something on it. Could be something massive on it for both clubs. That is going to be a nervy affair if it comes down to the wire. But I can't seriously look at, and I would say this against Torquay. They drew down at Torquay. They've just beaten Sutton. So the fact that Bromley are sat where we are in the table shouldn't put any fear into anybody whatsoever. And I can't sit here in all honesty and look at any of them teams and go, yeah, I don't think Notts will win that. You know, so even playing devil's advocate, I would say a point at Bromley just to make sure we get in probably 6th place, 69 points, win the playoffs, jobs are good.
Yeah. Well, we've gone through the card, both of us identically. I've gone for a point at Bromley. Yeah. I disagree. I think if we get 69 points, which is that's what that would give us. That would give us 3 wins, 3 draws, 12 points, puts us on 69. I think that gets you 5th. I think that gets you 5th.
69. So that's Halifax only getting 6 or less. Yeah, see, Halifax played Chesterfield, don't they, the last game of the season. So obviously both of them teams can't get their maximum available points. Again, you're going to assume teams are dropping points along the way. You might well be right. What I would say is, looking below us, we've got to get to 68 points because that takes Dagenham and Redbridge out of it, you know, who are on a fantastic run. They can only get 67. So anybody sort of below Eastleigh is completely out of it, which I think they are anyway. But you know, so it's a piece of cake on paper, isn't it? That's it. Playoffs, we'll book our Wembley tickets now.
Gary Smithhurst, unbeaten for the rest of the season, ? I'll have a pint of what you two are drinking. Yeah. Simon Blair, 10 points in them for me. Mark Reap speaks about winning both the home games. A.D. Clark, win the next 9 games. What's Stell drinking in his mug?
Can't tell you.
It's funny. Chloe, who's a big Notts fan, was on the show on Monday, and so she's a student up in Manchester on the UFCB football degree. So she's having a drink of Budweiser or something. Obviously not in a mug, in a bottle. And we've had a complaint. We've had a complaint from an anonymous email saying that the Magpie Circle should not be promoting alcoholic beverages on the show. It wasn't product placement, but if Magpie Brewery want to enter into a sponsorship with us, please send a few cases to my son, and as well as my shirts, you will see strategically placed Magpie Ale bottles all over the place.
Beautiful, yeah. Yeah, no, there's nothing too strong in there, but look, this is a great game, isn't it? Everybody does it. We've been doing it throughout the season. We do it every season, you know, hypothetical results. I guarantee you some of the results I've got down here for the other teams won't happen on Saturday, you know, and it won't happen next Tuesday. You know, that's the beautiful nature of football, isn't it? The unpredictability of sport in general. Just, you know, you can be absolutely certain. Anybody who watched Notts, again, going back to Altrincham, anybody watch on Saturday go, well, they're going to get tonked Tuesday night. Sutton, banging form. The only way they'll not win is if Sutton come there and play terribly, and they didn't, and not still won. So, look, like I say, we've been here before, false dawns and all that sort of thing after the Lord Mayor's show. But yeah, you tell me which one of them fixtures. If I was going to say, oh, do you know what, we might not get anything out of it, I'd say it's the Wrexham away game, which I think will be tough. But outside of that, you're not telling me Bromley are going to beat Notts, are you? We can't be confident going into a Bromley, Maidenhead, Barnet, Weymouth.
I think the analogy with Bromley, I would refer, and obviously I've gone for us not to get beat by them, take 4 out of 6. But I think the analogy for some fans that will be a bit more sceptical will be Eastleigh, where we play a team twice in 10 days, and you think to yourself, we'll be all right. Because Eastleigh were a long way behind us. We had fair few games in hand. Just avoid getting beat against Eastleigh. What happens? We lost both games. They get a result against Sutton, and they then become prime challengers for a playoff spot. That if we'd not got beaten by them in either of those 2 games, even 2 draws, they'd be more or less out of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a bit of an analogy there.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I'm looking at therefore, I don't know who they played Monday, but they got beat. You know, so their 3 results: beating Notts, beating Torquay, beating Notts again, were sandwiched by 2 defeats. Where's the logic in that? So if we were sitting down being, you know, Eastleigh fans, we wouldn't have got them set of results out, would we? 2 wins against Notts, yes, win against Torquay, and then a defeat against either side of it, sandwiched with whoever it might have been. I don't know who they played, but and that is this level. That is the thing. It's so unpredictable. So that's why we're sitting and trying to predict it, obviously. But, you know, I just, before any game, I cannot sit there and honestly, hand on heart, say, yeah, I think we'll get beat today. I really can't. When you think about it, with 2 draws with Torquay, and certainly 1 we should have won. 2 wins over Sutton. Okay, defeats against Hartlepool, but you know, Stockport haven't beaten us. It's an enigma, and it goes back again to why is that? Why is that? That for me is not an ability thing. Well, it partly is an ability thing, but it's more of a mental side of the game than anything physical. The players can perform; they can play against the best in the division, but when it comes up against the lesser lights, if you like, they don't produce the same levels. Now, depending on how your terminology is, that is part of a footballer's ability. That is the makeup. Messi is not only great, or Ronaldo, or whoever you prefer, he's not only great against the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Juventuses, the Bayern Munichs. They're also great against the Getafes and the Stoke Cities and the whatever of the world whenever they come up against them. And I'm obviously not equating Notts to being great and having great players like that. But good players are good more often, no matter who they're playing, no matter what the occasion. And that's what goes together at the end of a career. People go, oh, he was a good player, or he turned up every now and again, or on his day, he was a decent player. Every player should strive and want to be that, yeah, he was a decent player because he did it regularly.
It's a good bit of banter among the fans with our predictions. Trevor says 10 points would be a decent return, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that 67 points. Sorry, I wouldn't hang my hat on that. 67 points would, I feel, just squeeze us into the playoffs. Howard, the optimist Brett, says, you cannot be serious. If we didn't have the luck again against Sutton, you would not be talking playoffs. If I was a Sutton supporter, I would be stringing myself up. Ian Burchnall, someone needs to get a grip. Stell, get the Jaeger bombs out. Mark Reap, it's all coming back now. I'm glad it's not coming my way as always. Mark Reap replying to Howard, the optimist Brett, as I've tagged him. What luck? A player sent off and a disallowed goal. Alex Shackloff, really, Howard? The two Sutton fans I know thought 3-2 flattered them. Mick Dundee, Angelo will call him in future. It's all starting to fall into place. Notts have played some good football over the last few games. If it wasn't for poor lapses in defence, Notts would have had the points deserved from those games. Richard Hawksworth, Barnet, Maidenhead and Weymouth need to be beaten as the Wrexham and Bromley games are very, very hard. Lee Brearley, I have one worry other than us going up. What's going to happen with our weekly live meetings when the season ends? We'll keep them going. Not long as I can drag a few experts in, we'll be all right. David Skinner, Stell, we couldn't even beat Hornchurch with a Wembley final place at stake. God, it's in the past. Let that one go, David. Please let it go. Mick Dundee, you can see the style of play has changed. Definitely more attacking, taking on the defence and running at defenders. Howard Brett replies to Alex Shacklock. Jammy is not the word. Gary Smithhurst, despite scoring 3 last night, I'm still not convinced there's goals in this team. Enough to go on the type of run you are suggesting. I do, however, hope that the goal from Wootton may help. Alex Sherwood back to Howard. I must have been watching a different game. Thought we absolutely deserved that winner. Stell, and a good point, David Skinner. You're redeeming yourself here. I don't know whether you know this, Stells. We have never lost to Barcelona in 4 meetings. Do you know that story?
Is that right? Is that right?
Okay, this is true. Not
in the running.
Genuinely, Notts went over to Barcelona in the early 1920s to open Barcelona's new stadium, as it then was, called Le Court. And we were a good team in them days, top flight.
Yeah.
And we smashed Barcelona 2 times. 7 or 8-3, whatever it was. And we've played them a couple of other times. We've played 4 matches and we have never lost to Barcelona. There aren't many English teams that can say that. That's true story. Look it up on Google if you've not heard the story. So thanks to David for bringing that up. Lee Brearley, if Stell is right on his prediction, I think he should be buying us all a pint in the Navy. Look, we go up into League 2. The drinks are on the Magpie Circle, okay?
I better make
a sponsorship deal with Magpie Ales and Dave Willans at the Navy in advance, obviously.
If I'm buying all the drinks, I'd better make that pound I'm going to put on it £10, and
well, I'd say if this whatever 6 results prediction comes in, we will make a few quid. Howard Brett didn't see it, but if we persevere with cart horses, we can forget the goals conceded. Talking of Rawlinson and Turner, bloody hell, there's no pleasing some people. Ian Baggett, the priority must be to get another really good centre forward for next season to complement Wootton. Who's bothered about next season? No. 6 games, all that matters. Nothing else matters now. Don't want to hear about preparing for next season, squad overhauls, everything else. It's all about the here and now. And I do hope, Stells, and I banged on about this, it's almost like some people seem not to have embraced we're in a playoff race. I really hope after last night, every single person behind the team, players, manager, coaches, you name it, we've now got a 6-game season. Well, 9 games to get to Wembley and get back into League 2. Enjoy it. We're back in watching the game as fans in, 18 days' time? Enjoy the bloody thing.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree more in terms of a 6-game season, hopefully a 9-game season, because that's the thing we've been saying all along. We want promotion, no excuses. But it doesn't matter. Getting in the playoffs, and like I say, I'm speaking from having been there, it don't matter whether you come 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, as it is in this division, it does not matter. Once you're in there, then anything can happen. It's a lottery, it really is. And yes, it is really up for grabs, and it's whoever can stand the heat, basically, will come out of it. We finished 3rd in the table last season, PPG, getting us there, sort of thing, but finished 3rd. We still didn't make it up. There's every chance we could finish 7th this season, and we'd have just as much chance of winning the playoffs as I would have given us last season. So, look, I still believe we get in the playoffs. I had a bet with Lee Curtis 2-3 games ago that we would, and I don't give him money away easily. So, so I hope I'm not giving it away. But I'd love to take some of Lee's money.
Wouldn't we all? Good luck with that. A great riposte from David Skinner. Paul, never mind it's in the past, Barcelona. I'm still getting over losing to Runcorn in the FA Cup 1-0 in 1967.
Yeah.
I think my dad was at that. I was only 4. I think I was given the afternoon off from going to Runcorn on the train. I think the manager got the sack after that one, if I remember rightly. Paul Richardson, I've been critical that we haven't had enough players with fire in their belly. Mark Ellis, though, has it in abundance, and it was his work that won the penalty. I hope we sign him up. Alex Shacklock, it's all about form going into the playoffs. Could be a very nice time to find consistency and momentum. Come on, you stylish magpies. Paul Richardson mentions Mark Ellis, and I think he typifies that kind of, I think on his Twitter bio he puts head it, kick it, all the rest of it. When one of your old teammates, who's very funny, very dry, Kevin Nicholson, and Kevin told us that Mark is like a magnet in the penalty box. When he was down at Torquay, he's a centre half, but he will always chip in 5, 6, 7 a season in the box. He always just seems to be there when things are happening. And of course, it was he that won the penalty, albeit a rather rash challenge, on Saturday, on Monday. He's kind of in there when it matters, isn't he? Just a little, and you must appreciate this as a striker who knows how to sniff a goal out. He's just got a little something offensively in the other box, hasn't he? Which have been a bit of a weak spot for us throughout the season in terms of defenders scoring goals. I think he was the first defender to score a goal this season for us in March or whatever it was.
Yeah, and agree completely. Yeah, he's got, I'm going to say whether a magnet, but people say he's got a magnet to it, but that is ability. That is ability to read a flight of a ball. When a ball's delivered, strikers have it, the good strikers have it. How do people end up getting tap-ins so often? Because they know how to read and predict and see how the game's going. It doesn't always happen, of course it doesn't. It's not an exact science, football, but you've got that innate ability to read a game. All good players have it, and that is involving being in the right place at the right time when the ball's arriving. It's an innate skill. And for a centre half, Mark Ellis, like I say, first centre half to score a goal for us, which we were saying, okay, predominantly we were fairly solid defensively, but nobody was chipping in with goals, which when you're not a free scoring team anyway, you need goals from everywhere. He's come in and scored his 4 goals, and don't underestimate him winning that penalty last night, because it was one of them again. You see it from the sidelines. The ball, he's challenging for the header. Nobody gets a clear header on it. It's last minute. And you can see when it breaks, like I say again, it's a striker's eye, or it's somebody who's got a bit of awareness about the game. You can see their defender, I think it was Eastman, wanting to, last minute of the game, I want to defend my goal, I want to defend my penalty, I'm going to want to win a tackle. And you can see straight away, Mark Ellis thinks, if I can just nick that ball, he's going to come through me probably. And that's exactly what happens, and it gets a penalty. That is as good as a, defenders, goal line clearance, goal-saving tackle, whatever you want to call it, that has won us 2 points. Yes, there's other things in the game goes on it, but that on its own is the difference between the game finishing 2 minutes later at 2-2 and first finishing 3-2. So moments like that, and it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Ruben Rodrigues with his bits of quality and bits of vision, or whether it's a centre half or a fullback or a centre midfield player. I like clever players who can see situations. Don't need to be the fastest or the tallest or the strongest. I like clever players, and you've got to have them in your team. You've got to have them in your squad. And I think for a defender, who is a headed kick-it merchant. He's a bit of an old-school defender. He's had a bandage on his head for the last 2-3 games, and he'll quite like that as well, I don't doubt.
The cut's healed up. There's nothing wrong with the cut now. He's absolutely fine. He just goes for the bandage.
It's just a superstition. He should keep it on now, I think. But I think he's ironically, I think he solves a problem, but also causes one as well by coming in. And what I mean by that is, prior to him, we had what we thought was a fairly solid central defensive partnership in a four of Conor Rawlinson and Alex Lacey. Solid, good at this level. But results dictated that Neil Ardley ended up having to shift things around. And I think he went with a 3 just because, well, I've tried everything else and we're not, winning. The performances aren't great, so I'm going to try something. Went to a 3. Mark Ellis came in, started scoring goals. And hey presto, you can't drop a player who's scoring goals. But I do think, I know Alex Lacey's not fit at the minute anyway, but I do think it creates an issue, not a problem, it's a good problem to have. But Mark Ellis is scoring goals and winning your penalties and heading and kicking balls and defending well. Conor Rawlinson, who hasn't done anything wrong and has been a player of the year last year and has had a decent enough season this season. Alex Lacey individually has done nothing wrong. He's had 1 or 2 injuries, so not had to play as many games. I think it creates a problem. And what we don't know, and only one man will know, and that will be Ian Burchnall, not the Ian Burchnall that's commenting on this, or at least I don't think it is, as to whether he wants to play a back 3. Nobody knows whether he prefers a back 3 or a back 4. Now, if he's going to go to a back 4, or if he prefers a back 4, then that means one of them 3 miss out. And he seems to like Adam Chickson. He's brought him in sort of from the cold with Neil Ardley. And that's the one change I would really say, or the most obvious change, going from Neil Ardley's management and selection policy and who it play to who Ian Burchnall comes in. We've had discussion about Jake Reeves and Michael Doyle in the middle of the park. New manager comes in, Jake Reeves and Michael Doyle in the middle of the park. The players have been largely the same. The one exception would be Ian Burchnall seems to like and see something in Adam Chickson that Neil Ardley didn't. And that has probably been the one change in terms of personnel who's regularly been in there. So, whether he likes to play a 3, but Chickson as that left-sided player, the thing is when you play a 3, you want your 2 wide centre halves to be able to ideally come out with the ball, to step into midfield, to draw opposition players towards you and create space for others. If you play Conor Rawlinson as that right-sided player, bless him, he's a bit like Mark Ellis. He's a headed kick-it merchant who will give you everything, heart on the sleeve. You'd want to be in the trenches with him. Alex Lacey's a little bit more cultured, I would say, on the ball, but it gives you decisions. What do? Do you play a 3 at the back to accommodate players, or do you go with your formation and then just pick the best players that you fit? And you could have a Conor Rawlinson missing out. You could have a Mark Ellis missing out. If you think Rawlinson and Lacey was the best partnership, it throws up all sorts of interesting things. But going back to what you're saying, I think Mark Ellis has been a godsend because he provided goals and another route to goal that opposition will have to be wary of pre-game. Don't forget, he's now a centre half that's scored 4 in 12, 13 games now. Won a penalty against Sutton on the TV. He's up there winning, challenging for headers with his bandage on, so he don't go unnoticed. This gets spotted, so he'll be earmarked to be marked, and that might create space for somebody else. So I say it's so vital to have goals from all different areas, because if you've got one man who's scoring, then other teams can focus. Well, if we nullify him, and from a Notts perspective for large parts of the season, if we nullify Kyle Wootton, then they're not going to score too many goals.
One person that's being mentioned a lot in our chat section here, we're not mentioning him yet, but we will rectify that now. In Burchnall, I feel more assured with Sam Slocum in goal last night. 2 great saves that were critical to our win. Hope he stays fit for the remainder of this season. Ian Baggett, special mention for how well Sam Slocum played yesterday. Several others also mentioning the return of Sam. How important has that been?
Well, I go as far as he's just number 1. He's the number 1 keeper, and when he's fit, he plays. I don't see, Luke Pilling's had a few games. We can't really make a judgment about Luke Pilling, but the fact that the manager then, when Sam Slocum was going to miss a few games, went and brought somebody else in, seems to say, well, he's not obviously sure about Luke Pilling. Luke Steele's coming. We haven't seen too much to judge from him, but I think Sam Slocum's number one. When he's fit, he plays, and I think he made 2 fantastic saves last night. Really important saves, important times. The one low down to his right-hand side, a good strong hand. I think it was from the shot from Bougiel. And then the second half from the header, which is, like, it's a reaction save that Lewis John should have scored. Make no mistake about that. Free header from 6 yards out. But he does score, but for Sam Slocum. It's like I say, small margins in matches, especially tight games, of course, but he's vital. He is a vital. It's not just that. It's that he's handling, he's catching crosses, and I think then the reassurance that gives the defenders in front of him. Any good defence is built around a good keeper.
Alan Cotty says that I couldn't watch but listen to the excellent Charlie and Stell commentary on the BBC. I just about lost hope this season, but when that penalty went in, I was running around punching the air. Faith restored. Question from Gary Smithhurst to you, Stell. Who does Stell feel is best placed to partner Wootton up front?
That is a $64 million question. I'd have to say, if you're going with the front two, for me it would be Jimmy Knowles. I like the fact that he runs in behind. He has quiet games. He has games where he doesn't necessarily affect the game. He had a quiet first half last night. Didn't really do too much. But I just like the combination of, with Kyle Wootton, you've got the big centre forward who you can play into his feet, but to create space for him and others around him, and Ruben Rodrigues, who's going to play in them holes, in them pockets of space. You want somebody who stretches a team, takes the defenders back towards their own goal. I always appreciated playing with somebody like that in my career, because I wasn't that person who was going to run in behind very often. It was a token gesture at best. In fact, the defenders set their calendar to know when they had to track me. But yeah, just from the fact that he could stretch teams, that create space for others. So I would go with you, and let's be honest, we haven't got an abundance of options. But I would say Jimmy Knowles, from what he's done, I think he's the one that's leading the pack to be alongside him. Lewis Knight might well prove to be, a really good foil alongside a Kyle Wootton type of player. Just not seen enough from him. Yeah, he's
early, isn't it? A bit early.
For division, it's a lot to put on his shoulders. He sort of came in, and I think we all hoped he was going to be Cal Roberts, immediate effect, immediate impact. But just because he isn't, that's not a negative on Lewis Knight. He's got to be given time to get used to this level, which he hasn't played at before, and and really find his feet, and not have, he's not scored for however many games, so he's useless. Get rid of him. Let's bring the next one in. It's that, because that will kill the ladder. Give him time to acclimatise, and we might just have a rough diamond there. You never know.
Mark Reap says, when Rawlinson and Lacey are back together, stick Ellis up front with Wootton. David Skinner says, I certainly have more faith in us reaching the playoffs. Now the players have Michael Doyle to play for. Appointing him assistant was a very astute move by the owners. May well have been Ian Burchnall, It got people off their backs. Results. In the Notts County Garden, life is much, much better. And in terms of with tickets going on sale for the game with Weymouth, couldn't have been better time. And fair play to the club. I think they've got the ticket selling arrangements absolutely spot on. Absolutely, we've got the best part of 3,000 season ticket holders. For me, they are the single most important category, and I think it's entirely fair. One ticket per season ticket holder. Season ticket holders have a few days to get themselves sorted, and then different categories after that. I have to say, fair play to the club. The ticket system worked very well for me, Stells. Unfortunately, I am not great at pressing the right buttons, as much as I would like to blame Ticketmaster.
Until we got 2 tickets for those miserables.
Yeah, somehow I'm always, you don't see me, but I am in the Derek Pavis, keeping an eye on you and Stells and the rest of the lads in the press box. Right. Only somehow I've pressed a button that means I'm now at the top of the cop. But never mind, I'm in the game. It doesn't.
It's Anfield as well.
Stell's final comments, because conscious of your time, you're always great value for everyone. Really enjoyed the show, and it's nice that we've been able to talk so positively tonight.
Yes.
And we hope now for a grandstand finish. Some people, it might be a flash in the pan yesterday. Others, this can be the springboard. We'd really like to think, wouldn't we, that this can be that 6-7 game unbeaten run. That all of a sudden we are then the Chesterfield of a month ago, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Chesterfield are going to storm it. They're going to do this." Now they've dipped, And momentum is key in the playoffs. We had Kevin Nicholson on here, great lad. I love Kev, and he said, "I will bet if it's a blanket finish at the end of the season, whoever finishes second will not win the playoffs. Will not win the playoffs."
Well, if that was Nico, it'd be a 20p bet, wouldn't it? Well, the team that finished second won the playoffs last year, didn't they? So, I mean, Nico's brilliant, that is. Harrogate finished second and went up. So,
I think his point is momentum. If you think you've got a real chance going in and then you just miss out, it's a bit anticlimactic, I think is his point. Whereas the team that finishes 5th or 6th or 7th, it's loaded a bit more against them now. But if we can finish 5th, home playoff, fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, that would be. We said a few months back or a few weeks back, didn't we? That okay, it looks like automatic's gone, but you want to finish 2nd or 3rd, and if then it was, well, let's finish 4th or 5th because you get that home draw with the way the National League playoffs are. Unfortunately, it's now gone to, well, let's try and cling on to 5th for home draw. Yeah, that'd be great, but what I would say is, given the position, we've got to finish reasonably strongly to get in them playoffs. We can't lose 3 games and get in the playoffs, and, well, barring a ridiculous set of results. But you know what I mean? We can't stumble our way into the playoffs. No. From where we are, we're going to have to make up ground. So we will have to finish with a reasonable run of form. We can probably, go on. Let's just for 1 second assume that we haven't nailed it and we're going to be unbeaten in 6. We could probably only afford to lose 1.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to be, unbeaten 5 out of them 6 games with the win against Sutton. So assuming we get there, we've got to have a reasonable run of form to get there. So there's a bit of momentum, bit of belief, hopefully taken from this game. So look, I'll always look at glasses half empty as far as I can, but I'll always try and be honest and say it how I see it. But I just hope Barnet on Saturday is massive, because it is. All them people that said about after the Lord, we've had this after Dagenham, one swallow don't make a summer. They're absolutely right. But we're trying to cling on to some sort of positivity that it does only take a one result, one thing in football can turn it all around. And as you've just mentioned there, the clubs that have been on great runs and you think, well, they're going to walk it, all of a sudden have a dip. Not had that great run this season. What a time it would be if that Sutton game was the catalyst to have a great run, finishing strongly, and then going in, who knows, in the playoffs, going into the playoffs with momentum. I'd go slightly against Nico and say, I know exactly what he's saying. Momentum does mean a lot, but I would go, it's a little bit more of a clean slate. It's a mini season at the end of a season. What's gone before it, the 42 games as it will be, won't count for a great deal when it comes to the playoffs, because the cameras are there. It's a one-off game. You know what's at stake. So that can create a special atmosphere. And some teams rise to that and some teams fall by the wayside of it. I just think what a great time it would be if Notts just hit their straps now and that Sutton game was the catalyst.
Perfectly said. Final comments from our viewers and listeners. Gary Smithhurst, thanks Paul and Stell. Great show tonight with everyone generally more upbeat. Amazing what a win can do. Pete Bond, Stell is my hero, and an emoji. Ian Burchnall, great debate again, chaps. Score predictions for Saturday, ? Ian goes on to say, Stell, I still wear your match-worn shirt I won in a blind raffle. There you go.
Who did you want to win?
I think it's about 7,000 former Mark Stallard personalised match-worn shirts in existence. Do you go give them away after every game?
I did a cracking trade in them, yeah. No, weirdly enough, I haven't got any. I don't think I've got any of my not shirts. I did give them all away. I sort of charity things and whatever. So I don't have any. I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look. But I think I gave them all away. Yeah.
Yeah. Howard, the optimist Brett, finishes on a high. Dream on. What team have you been seeing for the last 20 years? There we go. He's happy, isn't he? Right. Stells, one thing we want you to do on Saturday, or when you are next with Charlie Broadcasting, I want you to go through those 6 games. So you and I have gone for a night. Right. Well, actually, Charlie's probably watching this, to be fair. So I want you to go through with him on air, see what he's going to go for with those last 6 games, and see what we all think.
Yep, I will do. I will ask him that.
Stells, thank you very much for your time. Always great to hear from you. Always great, independent, objective insight. We're in a happy place at the minute. Let's hope we are come 5 o'clock on Saturday. Thank you very much indeed again. And we look forward to welcoming you again soon. And I thought I could be an optimist, but the 9 wins line is a great one. 9 wins.
You heard it here first. I'm just off to put £10 on Paddy Power for it. All the bookmakers are available, of course.
If Heineken did end of season National League run-ins, that would be the one, wouldn't it?
That would be it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all our viewers and listeners. There's a little red box somewhere on here to subscribe free to us. And you can also win one of 2 very special William Hill sponsored shirts that I've got up for grabs at the minute, free just by registering as a subscriber elsewhere on the Magpie Circle site. That's it all from us all tonight. There'll be no player interview this week on the Thursday. I'm on my jollies in Cornwall, so we're just having a slight break. But we will be back as normal. Our next show will be Monday, dissecting Barnet, looking ahead to Maidenhead. Thank you all for joining in tonight.
Cheers.